I am sick and tired of this marriage. I am done.
The day she gave birth to her third child, her husband stopped looking at her the same way. Not because she changed, but because he did. And what happened inside that house after the baby arrived would destroy everything she thought was love. Nobody expected what she would become 6 months later. The nurses still remembered the way Ethan stood beside the hospital bed that morning, arms folded, eyes cold, while Claire held their newborn son against her chest. Exhausted and trembling after 19 hours of labor, Ethan barely touched the baby. He barely touched her. And when the doctor congratulated him for becoming a father again, he forced a smile that vanished the second nobody was looking. Claire noticed it immediately. Women always notice first. The silence, the distance, the invisible shift that suddenly changes the temperature of a marriage. She told herself it was stress, bills, sleepless nights, responsibility. But deep down, somewhere underneath the pain medication and emotional exhaustion, Claire felt something she could not explain. It felt like grief, like standing at the funeral of a relationship that had not officially died yet. For almost 12 years, Claire had built her entire identity around her family. She met Ethan when she was 26 years old, working as a waitress in a small restaurant outside Chicago. Ethan was charming in the way certain men become charming after learning how to study people carefully. He knew exactly when to smile, exactly when to listen, exactly how to make a lonely person feel chosen. Claire had grown up believing love meant sacrifice, and Ethan seemed like the reward life finally gave her after years of struggle. He came from a respectable family. He worked in real estate. He wore confidence like expensive cologne. Within 2 years, they got married. Within 5 years, they had 2 daughters. And by the time Claire became pregnant with their third child, she believed they had survived the hardest years already. But she did not realize some relationships do not collapse during the difficult moments. Sometimes they collapse right after the difficult moments end. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The first few weeks after childbirth were brutal. Claire barely slept more than 2 hours at a time. Her body hurt constantly. She moved slowly through the house, carrying the baby while trying to keep up with the older children, laundry, dishes, school schedules, grocery lists, and doctor appointments. Ethan began staying at work longer than usual. At first, he claimed the housing market was becoming more competitive. Then he started taking calls outside. Then he stopped eating dinner with the family altogether. Claire noticed everything, but exhaustion has a dangerous way of making people question their own instincts. She kept telling herself she was emotional because of hormones. She kept defending him even when he gave her reasons not to. One night, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at herself while the baby cried in the next room. Her hair was messy. Her eyes looked hollow. And suddenly she remembered the last compliment Ethan had given her. She could not remember it at all. Months earlier, during her pregnancy, Ethan used to kiss her forehead before leaving for work. Now he walked past her like a stranger renting space inside the same house. Some nights he slept facing the opposite direction in bed. Some nights he claimed he was too tired and fell asleep downstairs on the couch. Claire tried to reconnect with him. She planned dinners. She asked him if something was wrong. She even apologized for being emotional, though she had done nothing wrong. Ethan always gave the same answer, "I'm just stressed." But stress does not explain why a man suddenly protects his phone like it contains state secrets. Stress does not explain why he starts smiling at messages while ignoring his wife sitting beside him, holding his child. And stress definitely does not explain why a husband looks irritated every time his newborn son cries. One evening, Claire walked into the kitchen carrying the baby, while Ethan scrolled through his phone near the counter. She asked if he could hold the baby while she showered for the first time that day. Ethan sighed heavily without looking up. "Claire, I just got home." She froze. It was not what he said. It was how he said it. Like caring for his own child was an inconvenience. Like she had interrupted something more important. Claire quietly nodded and walked back upstairs holding tears in her eyes. Because mothers learn very quickly how to cry silently. They learn how to break privately so the children never hear it. Later that night, while Ethan slept, Claire sat alone feeding the baby in darkness. And for the first time since their marriage began, she asked herself a question she was terrified to answer. What if this man no longer loved me? The answer arrived 3 weeks later. Ethan forgot his phone on the kitchen counter before rushing outside to take a work call. Claire had no intention of touching it. But then the screen lit up. One message, one sentence. I miss last night already. Claire felt her heartbeat stop. She stared at the words for almost 10 seconds before opening the phone completely. There were hundreds of messages, photos, hotel reservations, conversations stretching back nearly 8 months. 8 months. Which meant Ethan had started seeing another woman while Claire was pregnant with his child, while she was carrying his son, while she was attending doctor appointments alone because he claimed work was busy. Claire did not scream. She did not throw the phone. She simply sat down slowly because her legs stopped supporting her body. Sometimes betrayal is so overwhelming that anger arrives later. First comes disbelief, then numbness, then silence. When Ethan returned inside, he immediately noticed the phone in her hand. Claire looked at him with tears running down her face and asked one question. How long? Ethan stood motionless for several seconds before saying something that would stay inside Claire's mind forever. You haven't been the same since the pregnancies. There it was. No apology, no guilt, no shame, just blame. Ethan began talking about how distant she became, how tired she always looked, how their relationship changed after children. Claire listened quietly while realizing something horrifying. The man she married believed his betrayal was justified because motherhood changed her. He wanted the version of Claire untouched by sleepless nights and sacrifice. He wanted the woman who existed before she gave pieces of herself away, building their family. That night, Claire locked herself in the bathroom and cried harder than she had ever cried in her life. Not because Ethan cheated, but because somewhere deep inside, she had started believing his words. She hated herself for it. She looked at the stretch marks on her stomach and wondered when her body became something to apologize for. She remembered every birthday she spent making Ethan feel special, every career opportunity she turned down to raise their children, every lonely night she stayed awake nursing babies while Ethan slept peacefully beside her. And suddenly Claire understood something painful. She had spent years pouring love into everyone else while completely abandoning herself. The next morning, something changed. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quiet, dangerous quiet. Claire stopped asking Ethan where he was going. She stopped begging for attention. She stopped trying to fix a relationship she did not destroy. Instead, she started focusing on herself in complete silence. While Ethan believed she was falling apart, Claire was rebuilding piece by piece. She started waking up earlier. She began exercising lightly at home while the baby slept. She started taking online certification courses late at night. She opened an old email account connected to the marketing career she abandoned years earlier after becoming a mother. And slowly, almost invisibly, Claire began returning to the person she used to be before life convinced her she only existed to serve everyone else. Ethan barely noticed at first. Men like Ethan rarely notice transformation while it is happening. They only notice after it is complete. Months passed. Claire became calmer, more confident, more independent. She no longer waited by the window for Ethan to come home. She no longer asked who he was texting, and strangely, that frightened him more than her tears ever did. One night, Ethan came downstairs and found Claire laughing during a video interview for a remote marketing position. He stood there silently watching her. It had been months since he heard that version of her laugh. Genuine, alive, confident. Something about it unsettled him. Because for the first time, Ethan realized Claire might eventually stop needing him emotionally. Then came the moment that changed everything. 6 months after giving birth, Claire received a job offer from a rapidly growing company in Seattle. The salary was higher than Ethan expected. The benefits were excellent. The company wanted her immediately. Claire read the email twice while holding her sleeping son in her arms. and suddenly she began crying. But this time the tears felt different. These were not tears of humiliation or heartbreak. These were tears from finally remembering her own worth. When Ethan found out, his entire attitude changed overnight. Suddenly he complimented her appearance again. Suddenly he wanted family dinners. Suddenly he started asking if they could work things out. But Claire noticed something important. Ethan only became afraid when he realized she could survive without him. That is the tragedy of many relationships. Some people do not appreciate loyalty while they have it. They only panic once they feel control slipping away. A few weeks later, Claire sat alone inside her parked car after dropping the children at school. She stared at herself in the mirror again, just like she had months earlier after childbirth. But this time she saw someone completely different. The exhaustion was still there. Motherhood was still difficult. Life was still messy, but her eyes no longer looked empty. They looked awake, strong, a woman who survived betrayal and somehow found herself in the ruins. And in that moment, Claire understood something many people spend their whole lives learning too late. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the thing that finally forces you to become who you were always supposed to be. Because after her last birth, the game changed forever. Not because her marriage fell apart. Not because another woman entered the picture. But because for the first time in years, Claire stopped seeing herself through someone else's approval. And once a person discovers their value after years of feeling invisible, they never return to who they used to be again. Thanks for watching. Please let us know in the comment section what you think about Claire's comeback and the country where you are watching from.